Day two of quarantine here in Jersey, and well, that's not really going to stop us. We're just going to keep trucking along. We're going to keep putting on all the parts that we have left over, well, that we still have to throw on there because there's no better time than right now. Everybody's home. I have nothing to do, so I'm going to get, not a jump start, I'm just going to start throwing everything I have onto this car now and hopefully, cross my fingers, all this will be over. I hope you guys are safe. I hope everybody's really um, being precautious. I'm not even going to throw my opinion out there because, well, this is very sensitive right now. It's like talking politics, so just be safe and try not to let it get you down. So, whatever, I hope this video will give you guys something to do, something to watch, and just take your mind off of it for 10, 15 minutes, however long this is. But as by the title, I'm going to be doing the Ktuned Fuel Rail today. I'm going to show you guys the options you guys can do when purchasing a Ktuned Fuel Rail. I'll give you part numbers and how the setups could possibly look in your under your hood. Again, all different setups, all the whole bunch of options you get when you go Ktuned. Here's everything we're going to be going over today. Now, this is not everything that's going on the car. These are just all these three right here. These are three different options you can use if you want to run a gauge or if you just want a center fed fuel line. This is the plug that will plug the center if you choose not to run anything in the middle. But if you were just to buy the fuel rail, you would get your plugs for the side. You'd also get this plug to block the middle, or if you want to put the six, wherever end you're going on, this is what you would get. The gauge is an addition. Also, if you don't decide to do, like if you're not running any dash fittings, you can get the EF5 fitting, which would go on the one side, and it's just like the stock rail. I don't have that with me right now, but it'd be the long extension, and then you do the quick connect on there. So that would be what if you got the stock rail. Now, let's say you're like me, you want to run a gauge, right? So if you want to run a gauge, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go with this one first. So here's your part number if you only want to run a gauge. So now what this one would do is this would go in the center right here. So with the center, you'd be able to run the gauge only on this port. You'd block one end, and then you'd put either this one or your regular EFI fitting on the other end, or vice versa, however you want that. So this would be this one for this part number. Now let's say you don't want to run a gauge, you just want to plug both ends of the rail and you just want the fuel line coming in from the center. That would be this part number right here. So with this part number, again, we would pop this in the center, and then as you can see, we have the dash 6 fitting right here. So you would just have a center fed fuel line with both ends capped. It's kind of a clean look. All right, the last one we're going to talk about is the one that I'm going to be running. So this is basically both of these fittings in one. We have our dash 6 fitting at the bottom for our center fed fuel line. Then we also have the fitting right here for our gauge to screw on top like this. This is the one I'm going to be running. Here's our part number for that. In my opinion, it's the best of both worlds of everything. You're going to have your fuel pressure gauge right here. You can monitor your fuel pressure. You're going to have the clean look of the center fed line. Both ends are capped. And that's it. So that's the route we're going to take. And again, like I said, there's no part number on this because this comes with your fuel rail, but these are your locking tabs. And I'm going to go over explaining. I'm going to install all of these. I'm not just talking about them. I'm going to install them and give you guys a look. But this is your locking tabs, your screws. And if you wanted to plug it, that's your plug. So right now I'm going to have our first example laid out right now. This is going to be if you guys just got the rail the way it was and you didn't want to install any of the added fittings. So I have one end with our cap right here. That's capped off. I have the other end with our dash 6 line, so you can have it here or you can have it on this side. You guys can switch either or, whatever works for you. Now if we flip the rail over, as you can see, we have our plug right here. Now the plug I want to talk to you guys about because it's not just push the plug in and put these little guys on here. Now I left these guys loose so you could see I could slide these out of the way. So I have to loosen this up a little more. You can see I could slide this out of the way, and then this one will slide backwards as well. Now as you can see, they got little hooks in here if I was to pull this plug up. Alright, you see this little channel right here on the top of the O-ring? That's where these hooks have to lock into. You don't just push this all the way down and then put these guys on top. These hooks have to go inside that little channel. So we'll push this in medium way, slide the hooks in, So we'll adjust that, slide that in, slide that in. Now you might have to adjust this plug a little bit to get them to lock it in. But you should be able to push these in. They're going to sit flat. They're going to grab around there. Once you adjust it, I got to fiddle with it a little more. But once you get that, then you tighten these two guys down. And that's going to hold that in there. You need to make sure you put these guys in the channel. Otherwise, this is going to pop out with fuel pressure. Remember that. And also, remember to lubricate all of these fittings. So, like with this one, we'll loosen this up. So you see with the center plug, it's got an O-ring. Don't put these O-rings in dry. You know me, I always use silicone lubricant. So I'll spray some silicone so that way this could just push in nice and easy. We're not going to break it. But you see, if you don't do this right, you can actually push this in too deep and you won't grab those hooks correctly. So remember, when you're going to put this center section in, give it some space. Slide this in until you can grab the hook. Make sure both sides are even. Lock them in like that. There we go. So now we got a good bite on that. Push this down. Tighten both of these up. And that's the proper way to do that. So this is if you were just going to run your rail with what they supplied you. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start adding the fittings for the gauge, or if we wanted to do a center feed. Our next setup, it would be if we were running a center feed fuel line. So we have both ends capped. We have one end capped there. We have the other end capped there. Our center section is going to be a -6 fuel line. Same way we install it. We installed the plug. Push it in until you get to the lip. Once you get to the lip, you're going to slide those two sliders in, lock it down, and that's it. This is what you would run, or this is the setup you would use if you wanted to tuck your fuel line, run it in between your manifold, and just have that clean look. This is what it would look like. Again, our part number for just the fuel inlet, or the fuel fitting, would be right here. So that's what you would run for that. So next what we're going to do is we're going to take that center one off. We're going to leave the ends capped, and we're going to put as if we were going to put a fuel gauge. Well, if we put the fuel gauge, the fuel pressure gauge in the middle, we're going to have to put a -6. I'll show you again. What we got next up is now if we wanted to run our fuel pressure gauge in the center of the fuel rail, so we're going to just be running the fitting just for the fuel gauge. Now, one tip that you guys need to do when you are screwing this fuel gauge on, don't screw it on by grabbing it this way or trying to put channel locks on here. Make sure you put the wrench right here when you're tightening it. This is just a 12. You can use a 12mm wrench. You can tighten this. Always put Teflon tape. I'm not putting any on obviously right now because I'm just demonstrating to you guys how to do this. But tighten it from here and make sure you add Teflon tape. Same thing right in the back. Make sure our locks are inside of our channel. Tighten those guys up. And this is how we would run a fuel pressure gauge in the center of the rail. And this end is blocked. This end is where we're going to feed our fuel with a -6 fitting that they give us. So this is another clean setup that you guys can run if you want. That would look nice in between your on top of your manifold. Part number for this fitting, just for the gauge, is right there. Now for our final option that we have today, this is going to be the one again, like I was telling you, this is the one I'm going to be running. This is the fuel pressure gauge right in the center. And then also right below it, we have our -6 line to run our center feed fuel line as well, with both ends capped. We use the same tabs, again, to lock everything in the center. To me, in my opinion, if you ask me, this is the cleanest look you can have. The fuel rail is just, there's nothing you could see on the fuel rail on the sides. You won't even see the fuel line in the center because the gauge will be taking it up. This is my favorite look, so this is the one I'm going to be running. If you guys are screwing on your fuel pressure gauge and you have your Teflon tape, and let's say it's not straight or you're getting it tight and it's not exactly where you want, double up on the Teflon tape and that'll give you it might change the position of the gauge of where it could be. So that's a trick if you guys want to. If it's just not lining up the way you want it, add a little bit more Teflon tape so when you're tightening it, it'll stop at a different point to where you'll get it straight. But I love this look. This is what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to be taking this apart. I'm going to be making sure I add lubricant on both of the O-rings on the end, so that way when I tighten those guys down, they don't tear. They could spin. Once I tighten that down good, I have to add Teflon tape under here, and I have to tighten these guys down pretty good. I'm not going to add blue Loctite. You shouldn't need to add blue Loctite to these two guys right here. Just snug them down pretty good, and always make sure you check you have no fuel leaks. Just prime the system first, and we'll add our fuel injectors. Then we'll put it right on. And of course, I can't forget Here's the part number for the one that we're going to be running right now. The cool thing about this, they give you spare O-rings in case you tear anything, and there are some spare O-rings that actually come with the fuel rail with the plug. So if you were to tear anything, there are going to be spare O-rings with the plug. Here's our final look of what it looks like. So you guys can see we have everything tucked. No fuel line on that side, no fuel line on that side. You can't even see the fuel line. All you see is the fuel gauge. If you really want to look at it, you gotta look hard. You can see it under there, but you gotta look for the fuel line. Again, I did the same thing. I turned my injectors inward so you don't see the clips or anything like that. I had to move them around. Now there is one little issue I ran into. Now this is something that you guys might not run into, but the spacers I originally made, if you guys remember when I first installed my manifold, the manifold dropped the point of where you would, where the fuel rail would hit another spacer. I lost the original ones, so I made some spacers right here to put in between, right here. So right in here where the bolt and like that gap, I put spacers right there. These are too long now, so the rail actually sits a little lower than the original rail I had on here. Now, I've tightened the bolts that Ktuned supplies with the rail, and the rail is actually pretty solid, and it's not bowing in at all. So, what I'm going to do anyways, I'm actually going to just take these spacers, or I might just get another set. I'm going to just chop them down. I'm going to get the height of from here to here. I'm going to get what that distance is. I might make a new set of spacers, paint them black, throw them in there just for my peace of mind, because I always like to, if I'm tightening something down, I want the spacer to help distribute the weight, so it's not trying to tighten one side, tighten this side, and then it starts to cock the rail down this way. That's just me, so that's what I'm going to do. But it seems like if you tighten these evenly, it's not cocking the rail at all. The injectors, they're in all the way. They're not showing any O-rings, because originally when I had the spacers, they weren't even bottoming out in here. You could just still see the bottom O-ring just sitting on top. So that's why I had to take those spacers out. But this wasn't that. The whole point of this video was to show you guys the different options you have. So this is my favorite option. Now I'm going to talk about one more option that I know as of right now. I've seen it before, and I'll see if I can find a part number for you guys. But if you guys want, Ktuned, it does make an adapter or a fitting that fits to the side of your rail, and it has a 1/8 port, NPT port, so you can screw the fuel gauge on the side of the rail right here. So let's say you just had the center feed fuel rail in the middle, or fuel line in the middle, fuel pressure regulator screwed on this side. You can actually put a gauge right here, screw it in. I've seen it before. I don't have that on me right now, so I'll see if I can find a part number. But that is another option as well. But this is my favorite option. It just looks so much cleaner. I mean, here, take a look at this. You guys can see it's a lot cleaner. I hope with this video that gave you guys some more information or a better idea of, let's say you're looking to throw a Ktuned fuel rail on and you're not sure what you want to do. I hope this video just basically gave you an idea of what you would want to do and what would work best in your setup, because there's tons of options with Ktuned. Ktuned's got great products. I mean, it's not even that they're just my sponsor. Again, I told you I've run their products all the time. So forget I'm even trying to say that. The amount of customization you can do with their products is amazing. So just definitely, I hope this video helped you guys out, and I hope that helped you solidify your choice to choose the Ktuned fuel rail because of all the extra options you guys can throw in there. I'm going to go back into quarantine. I have other stuff I'm going to be doing. I'm going to try to really daily upload these next couple days, weeks, however long I'm home. I'm home. So I'm going to be just, all the extra parts I have, they're going into the car. If this video helped you out, definitely give me a big thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you're new. I have a ton of videos. You know, I'm always open to share everything with you guys, so you should consider subscribing if you're new. If you don't follow my Instagram, you should follow my Instagram. I'll leave it somewhere over here. I don't know where I'll put it. Follow that. You get a lot of behind the scenes and pretty much stuff that when I'm not picking up the camera, I always got my phone on me, so you always see what's going on with there. And again, Be safe, guys. I wish everybody the best out there. If you're working, if you're first responders, or if you're, if you work in the field where it's an essential job at the moment, from everybody, thank you guys for what you're doing. It's not easy out there, and I'm just trying to make light of everything that I can right now, and just to try to take you guys' minds off of everything. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Stay motivated and keep making those streets louder.